Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahi Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gacharya Asto Saraswati Shri Srimad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki, Jamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gauda Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni. Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pastyacha Deshatarne. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So are we in the Wide Awake Club? Hare Krishna. So I believe today's verse is number 35, chapter 7 from, chapter 9 from Canto 7. This is Prahlad pacifies the Lord with his prayers. And this particular canto is called The Science of God. Because it's a science. Prabhupada made that very clear, that Krishna consciousness is not a sentiment, it's a science. And we should learn the science. And if we learn and understand the science, we can help others understand. We can explain the science. Because as Prabhupada points out in 116 of the Bhagavatam, that Kirtanam means explaining. Shravana means hearing, and Kirtanam means explaining. So Prabhupada's books, they're actually the topmost Kirtan, because they're explaining the whole science of Krishna. We shouldn't think that Kirtan is simply singing. All the different activities of glorifying Krishna are also Kirtan. And particularly the business of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu is Sankirtan, congregationally glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because in this way, the remedy is there for all the ills of the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So much argument, so much quarrel and fighting is going on the planet, is it not? Everywhere you look, put them up. We're going to have a fight. And this is going on. But actually, this is not what the human life is meant for. The human form of life is meant for self-realization. When one understands what is the self, one can understand that the self is nothing but part and parcel of Krishna. Yes. So actually, self-realization means understanding our relationship with Krishna. And so this is the science of Krishna consciousness. So we're reading Prahlad Maharaj's pacifying the Lord with prayers. Prayers means one appreciates the qualities and glories and remembers the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not that prayers are simply uttered mindlessly. They should be uttered consciously, so that we're actually focusing our hearts and minds on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. Because after all, Krishna is existing with his devotees, and Krishna without devotees is fairly meaningless. And the devotees without Krishna is meaningless. So we should understand that Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the beautiful story of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. This is our proper understanding. So let's read from text 35. Is it on the screen? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So text 35. Satvatmayoni ativismita ashritobjam. Satvatmayoni ativismita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandam ivati shukshmam. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandam ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vichatam dadarsha. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vitatam dadarsha. Satvatmayoni ativismita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandam ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vitatam dadarsha. Bolo. Satvatmayoni ativishmita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa purishuddha bhavaha. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandam ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vitatam dadarsha. Satvatmayoni ativismita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandam ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vivatam dadarsha. Ladies? Satvatmayonir avitismitadashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandam ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vitatam dadarsha. Sattvatmayonir avitishmita ashritojam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava. Tvam atmani shabu vigandamivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vitatam dadasha. Saha, he, Lord Brahma, to, but, Atmayonihi, who is born without a mother, directly begotten by the Father, Lord Vishnu. Ati Vishmitaha, very much surprised, not finding the source of his birth. Ashritaha, situated on. Abjam, the lotus. Kalena, in due course of time. Tivra tapasa, by severe austerities. Parishuddha bhavaha, being completely purified. Tvam, you, Atmani, in his body and existence. Isha, O my Lord, Bhuvi, within the earth. Gandham, aroma. Iva, like. Ati shukshmam, very subtle. Bhuta indriya, composed of elements and senses. Ashayamaye, and that filled with desires. The mind. Vitatam, spread out. Dadarsha, found. Translation. Lord Brahma, who is celebrated as Atmayoni, having been born without a mother, was struck with wonder. Thus he took shelter of the lotus flower when he had been purified after undergoing severe austerities for many hundreds of years. He could see that the cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was spread throughout his own body and senses, just as aroma, although very subtle, is perceived in the earth. So responsively, please. Lord Brahma, who is celebrated as Atmayoni, having been born without a mother, was struck with wonder. Thus he took shelter of the lotus flower. And when he had been purified, after undergoing severe austerities for many hundreds of years, he could see that the cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was spread throughout his own body and senses, just as aroma, although very subtle, is perceived in the earth. Fascinating. So here the discussion is going on in the prayers of Lord Brahma, of Prahlad Maharaj. He's describing about the appearance of Lord Brahma and his development of self-realization. So Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here the statement of self-realization, Aham Brahmasmi, which is interpreted by the Mayavad philosophy to mean, I am the Supreme Lord, is explained. The Supreme Lord is the original seed of everything. Janmad yasya yataha. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravatate. Thus, the Supreme Lord extends everywhere, even throughout our bodies. Because our bodies are made of material energy, which is the Lord's separated energy. One should realize that since the Supreme Lord spreads throughout one's body, and since the individual soul is a part of the Supreme Lord, everything is Brahman. Sarvam kalvidam Brahma. This realization was achieved by Lord Brahma after he was purified, and it is possible for everyone. When one is completely in knowledge of Aham Brahmasmi, he thinks, I am part of the Supreme Lord. My body is made of his material energy, and therefore I have no separate existence. Yet although the Supreme Lord is spread everywhere, he is different from me. This is the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. An example given in this regard is that the aroma is that of the aroma within the earth. In the earth, there are aromas and colors, but one cannot see them. Actually, we find that when flowers grow from the earth, they appear with different colors and aromas, which they have certainly gathered from the earth, although in the earth we cannot see them. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his different energies, spreads throughout one's body and soul, although we cannot see him. An intelligent man, however, can see the Supreme Lord existing everywhere. Adantarasta paramanu chintarastam chayantarastam. The Lord is within the universe and within the atom by his different energies. This is the real vision of the Supreme Lord for the intelligent man. Brahma, the first created being, became the most intelligent person by his tapasya, austerity. And thus he came to this realization. We must therefore take all knowledge from Brahma, who became perfect by his tapasya. So this is a very nice example of the principle that is being explained here in the purport. This beautiful rose has accrued its flavor and its color from the earth. But when we look at the earth, we don't see the color and we don't appreciate the flavor, the smell. But actually these have all come from the earth. So the example is being given here that actually Krishna is not perceived within our bodies, but actually Krishna is present everywhere, not only in every atom, because every manifestation of the material energy is Krishna's material energy. It's actually not different from Krishna. Just as the sun is producing its energy, which we're actually getting through the windows and the skylights, we're actually getting the sun, even though it's not directly perceived because it's coming from beyond the clouds, which is a feature of life here in sunny Scotland. But practically speaking, if we think about it, we can understand that here is the sun. Yes? coming into the room. But at the same time, the sun is distinct in its own separate identity. And in the same way, Krishna's energy is spread everywhere. And Brahma, he was fortunate enough to appreciate that actually after he'd become purified, he could understand that actually not only he's a part and parcel of Krishna, a little individual particle of spiritual energy, otherwise known as the marginal energy of Krishna. We'll come back to that in a moment. But actually that the Lord is spread throughout his entire body. So here Prahlad Maharaj is glorifying Krishna by explaining the transcendental situation of self-realization. And as Prabhupada points out in the purport here, that this realization is available and achievable by everyone. Realization, not just theoretical knowledge, but actual realization that actually everything is Krishna. I am little particle of Krishna. My whole body is a manifestation of Krishna's energy, which is not different from him. So everything is Krishna. Krishna is everything, and everything is Krishna. So, but out of our ignorance and covering by Krishna's illusory energy, which is our choice, we've all come here by choice. Now we've become covered over by Krishna, by another of Krishna's energies, Krishna's illusory energy. So the process of self-realization is to become free from all the misconceptions that we, how is it said, that we're carrying this burden of misunderstanding. Actually, it's a huge, heavy burden that everyone is toiling under, hard labor. I've been in quite a few, in and out, I'm glad to say, of quite a few prisons recently, and I've got more to go into today. But the idea is that people, especially Dartmoor is famous as a prison for hard labor. People would have to take their hammers and pickaxes and smash rocks. Actually, that was hard work. If you ever lifted one of those sledgehammers or pickaxes, you know, to keep smashing the rocks is actually hard labor. And in this material world, everyone is laboring hard under the burden of misconceptions. Because actually we're not meant for simply working hard like the ass, the beast of burden, because we're carrying this big burden of misunderstanding throughout this material world. Throughout our lives, we're carrying this burden of misunderstanding of aham mameti, that I'm this temporary body. This is a big burden. But when one is relieved of that burden, actually it feels pretty good. That actually I'm not this body, I'm an eternal spirit soul. I don't die. I've always existed. What a relief, actually. Because otherwise we can look forward to getting old. And we can look forward to all the concomitant factors that come with old age. Anybody here had experience of dealing with elderly people? So the difficulty is that with old age come diseases of so many different varieties. And every time we try and fix some of the diseases, more exciting adventures come upon us. Not so exciting, actually. Quite depressing and quite almost soul-destroying. But you cannot destroy the soul. But people are thinking the body is everything, and the body is dying, and so we're thinking that the person is dying, and this is depressing. But if we're relieved of that misconception, then Actually, this is a good beginning. But after the beginning, what comes next? The next thing, after beginning, understanding that our nature is spiritual, transcendental, then what do we do about it? What do we do? What is the activity of a transcendentally situated person? So this is being given and explained in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Jiva Svarupa hoy Nityara Krishna Das. That as well as being eternal, what is the function? What is the constitution of this eternal living being? This is meant for discovery by the human beings, that the living soul, the actual person, is the eternal servant of Krishna, not the eternal servant of my cat, my dog, my family, my bank manager, customs and excise, all the rest that goes with this world, my community, my nation, my planet. Actually, we're the servants of Krishna, who has manifested all these things by his own inconceivable energy. Now, modern so-called science, nescience, is actually trying to convince us that somehow or other we have all simply evolved from matter. So Prabhupada, he gave us a very simple, straightforward understanding that we should become conscious of the fact that we're being cheated by these rascal philosophies. And the simple evidence is with us every day of our lives. And the simple evidence is that, have we got any experience ever of a living being produced from matter? Because every time we see a living being, we see it's produced from another living being. You wanted to say, Prabhu?
Scientists these days, I think, do that. We need these robots that you see, and then have the ability to replicate themselves and have artificial intelligence. So people are considering that this is life coming from that.
Yes, because they're only interested in artificial intelligence. They have no real intelligence. Real intelligence means that I can understand that from my body, every day, I'm producing matter. We have to sometimes cut the hair or shave the face. We have to go to the bathroom and produce matter. We have to cut our fingernails and toenails. We're producing solids from this living body. Yes? And we also produce liquids from this temporary material body. And to the hysterical delight of school children, especially schoolboys, we're also producing gases from this material body. So we're producing from a living body solids, liquids, and gases. But although the scientists may try to artificially present with their so-called intelligence that somehow one day we'll produce a living being artificially from matter, there isn't a single strand of evidence that they can ever actually do this. Only in fictitious movies. Some Frankenstein's monster trying to create a living being out of matter, but actually it is not happening in spite of all their advanced technology. Prabhupada, he explained that actually they're giving so many Nobel Prizes, but they should give a Nobel Prize to the hen, because the hen is producing chickens from its own body, but they can't even produce one living cell. Not even one. So we're seeing how matter is produced from living beings. not only matter is produced from living beings, but living beings are produced from living beings. Is it not? Trace your family tree. How far back can you go? But always you find that living beings are the cause of living beings. So when science wants, so-called science wants to determinedly and doggedly and stubbornly insist that living beings are not the cause, here we're presenting the supreme absolute truth, the cause. Hare Krishna. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nivishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarani. So the point is that matter and living beings are only coming from living beings. So when they're trying to establish the cause of the creation, actually daily real intelligence points to it. The cause of all the causes is a living being, not matter, not some chance combination that somehow so many wonderful designs, so many beautiful creations, just like I've been driving through beautiful Scotland the last couple of days, still got a bit more to go. But actually seeing the magnificence of the mountains and the countryside, and even the beauty of so much suspended water in the sky. Hare Krishna. Billions of tons of water just so nicely suspended in the air. Yes, it's actually very beautiful when you look at it and you think, you know, this is intelligence, just like Hoksha Krishna Prabhu. He's, as a living being, he can produce very nice paintings, trying to represent the nature of the spiritual world, actually. And so many so-called artists, they try to represent the beauty of nature. But as Prabhupada points out, that nature is simply the brush. But the artist who is wielding the brush is Krishna. When you see a beautiful painting, do you see, oh, this brush has made this wonderful painting? Yes? You have to give credit to the artist, is it not? So nature is the brush, but nature, as Krishna has confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, is working under his direction. Everything is working under Krishna's direction. This whole material creation, this body which is able to breathe, is working under the direction of Krishna. That's Krishna's design. He's made it that way. And he's actually enabling, through so many different agencies, this body to function. This body is functioning with so many allocated breaths, yes? And when the allocation of breaths is over, it's time to go. It's time to go and get another one and do it all again on some planet and some species. There are plenty of planets out there. There are plenty of species of life. Which one are you going to? But the point is that it's all done with a very nice design, very beautiful artistry. Who can paint such beautiful suspended water in the sky? That's Krishna's plumbing system. You know, you look in your bathroom and you look and you see, or your kitchen, and you see the plumbing and you see all these pipes and metal bits and pieces. But look at Krishna's plumbing. You know, I was also driving by and seeing a beautiful water system of rivers and going out to the ocean. You know, that's Krishna's water storage tank. You know, it's very nice. And then if you look closely, you can see the pipes going up to the clouds. Yes? Can you? But actually that's Krishna's invisible manifestation of his potency. We can't see it happening, we can't see the wind and the sun driving the water up through these nice, beautiful, invisible pipes up into the sky. And with the overhead storage water tanks and the nice overhead sprinkler system, everything is being done in such a beautiful way, such an incredible way. And we're thinking, oh yes, our plumbing is so beautiful. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it springs a leak. But actually, Krishna's is very perfectly done, and it looks so beautiful. This is intelligence. This is artwork. So Krishna, he knows the art of doing everything. People talk about mysticism. It's only mystical when you don't know the art of doing it. Just like some cooks, they can produce wonderful sabji and chapatis and rice and dal and sweet balls and so many things. And it's quite mystical how they do that if you don't know how it's done. But the cooks, they know how it's done. So when we talk about Krishna's mysticism, Krishna says, behold my mystic opulence. How is it done that Krishna is presenting everything so nicely and is pervading everything in every atom by his energy, and he's personally present as the super soul in every atom, and yet he's outside of everything. He's inside of everything, and he's also outside of everything. He's in his own abode. So he's telling Arjuna, behold my mystic potency. This is Krishna. But Krishna knows the art of doing that. We struggle to be in more than one place at one time. Is it not? Sometimes you wish you could be in more than one place at a time. But Krishna can do that very easily. He can be everywhere simultaneously. So understanding how Krishna is the original person. Lord Brahma, here in this verse, he was struck with wonder, it's described here, that he couldn't find out who his mother was. But actually Krishna, he doesn't require the help of Lakshmi, his wife, to produce a child. He can produce a child from his own abdomen. And this is Lord Brahma. And in such a beautiful way. You know, when a mother has to give birth to a child, it's a pretty painful process. Is it not? The ladies are smiling. If you've ever had to do it. Can you remember what it was like being born? What's the first thing babies do when they come in this world? They cry. Yes, it's a painful experience. What to speak of the pain of actually giving birth. But Krishna, he does it so beautifully. From his little expansion as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he's producing a beautiful lotus flower from his abdomen. And pop, out comes Lord Brahma. Very nice, beautifully done. So everything is being taken into consideration in the science of self-realization. Everything is systematically explained in the Bhagavad Gita, the ABC, just like with children. You can't just teach them higher mathematics. You have to teach them gradually through the ABC, and 1 and 1 is 2, and gradually learning. Maybe you'll get as far as some, what do they call that stuff when you're working out all the equations and algebra, yeah. And then there's geometry, you know, all these wonderful mathematical feats. But actually, you have to start off with the ABC, which is why Bhagavad Gita is so important, because it's the ABC of spiritual life, understanding the basics. Very straightforward. How does Krishna explain it? First of all, he explains actually the difference between the living being, the soul, and the temporary body. That's the beginning of where Krishna is starting to explain it. So oftentimes, when I'm encouraging people to read Bhagavad Gita, because these even this ABC for some people is very difficult to understand. So if you read the introduction, all the concepts are gradually explained so nicely so that when you actually come to read the text, it becomes very easy to understand. So actually, you find that in Bhagavad Gita, step by step everything is being presented, and the word tasmat is used very often. What does the word tasmat mean? Therefore. Because if you have an explanation, you explain this point and this point and this point, therefore this point. Krishna is gradually explaining everything step by step so that we can build a clear understanding. And this is required, because without this transcendental knowledge, then what is the meaning of this human form of life? It's simply hard labor until the bitter end. Is it not? Anyone looking forward to the end? You might be thinking, well, in the end, he's going to finish and we get prasadam. But the bitter end of this life is a different story. Are we looking forward to that? Not particularly. Because practically, if someone comes in here with a gun and says, okay, your time is up, who's first? You know, who's going to say, yes, me? So we should understand that this world is a suffering place, but people cannot understand these simple principles. Even I was talking with someone who I was recommended to see, Annie Stewart, yesterday in the Castle Huntley prison. Yes. And it was a little while in a discussion, because I actually managed to spend a few minutes with her, and she's been in that job for 17 years as the chaplain. So trying to tend to people's spiritual needs and material needs for understanding, but actually trying to get the point across to her. You could see there was kind of a moment of revelation, because people are still, even in spite of their so-called religious practice and religious dogma and the like, they're still caught up in the bodily concept of life, thinking that actually somehow we're a combination of both matter and spirit. But simply that expression that it's not that I'm a human being having a spiritual experience, but that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. You could see that was starting to trigger something, some beginning of appreciation. So this is the point. We have to somehow or other become aware ourselves of the scientific nature of Krishna consciousness and try to help others come to understand from whatever level they're on. Our business is to try to give people Krishna. And when people take these literatures, at some way or another, it can actually dawn on people's consciousness that actually this is something that makes sense. And that's the beginning of development of the spiritual realization. We can't say that it's the beginning of their devotional service, because who can say how many opportunities people have had before they come to this point? How many opportunities have we had before we've come to take this human birth and have a chance to associate with devotees and further develop our Krishna consciousness from wherever we left off in our previous lives? We don't know where people have left off in their previous lives. We don't even know where we left off in our previous lives. But actually, we've got the chance to continue and perfect the process. And this opportunity of hearing transcendental sound vibration from the lips of a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. Because as Prabhupada explains, that these literatures are nothing but Prabhupada's own words, simply in written form. So this hearing process is the beginning. Prabhupada explains it's the primary process for progressive spiritual life. And practically speaking, until we actually hear from a pure devotee, then how do we connect to Krishna? Because if we hear and then we can begin to understand, actually, this is very good. We can become attracted. We can take prasadam. We can see the Jagannath Rath Yatra festival, which is all very good. It's attractive. But the hearing is so important because it helps us begin that understanding of what is actually what. And this is why Prabhupada gave us daily doses of studying Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing from Bhagavad Gita. Actually, Prabhupada's program was Bhagavad Gita in the evening and Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, and so many books, read them all. This is wanted, because by hearing from Srila Prabhupada, actually we get clearer and clearer understanding. We're able to throw off the burden of misconceptions. So some of you may have been familiar with, in the third canto, how Brahma is creating offspring from his own body. And it's described how he had to give up different bodies. So what does that mean? He's giving up different subtle bodies. He's throwing off different material conceptions, actually giving up those bodies. So in the same way, we're also trying to practice Krishna consciousness and actually throw off the subtle bodies of misconception that are actually plaguing us. They're keeping us entangled in materialistic thinking instead of having clear realization of the subject matter. So I'll pause at this point. And does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to add or inquire? Adhokshaja Krishna Prabhu.
We had a class last year by Kartik Chandra Prabhu, and he was saying it's in the Bhagavatam somewhere, the third canto. There's three phases of auspiciousness. The first is Mahapunya, so when people see Rath Yatra and they get prashad, then they go into the evening bath. And Mahapunya is Swastikaya, so it's like an auspicious journey, they decide to, like you say, read the book and understand it to some degree, apply it. And then when the journey is fulfilled, shown up, then they go back to Gota, which is not necessarily all Gota. If you look at it like that, where society is, it seems like we're planting a lot of seeds right now. You know, people will eventually start on this vicious journey, and then over a few lifetimes, they go back to Gota. That will culminate over a few centuries, and then it's still like auspiciousness.
Yes, and when we take initiation, we're beginning the process of spiritual life. It's not that, okay, now I'm such and such a Das or such and such a Devi Dasi, that now I've made it, I'm KC. No, it doesn't work like that. It's the beginning of the process, or the continuation of the process from our previous lives, actually. And the opportunity to actually achieve the perfectional stage, the prayojana, of actually being fully connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because this is one of the three goals of human life. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The three goals of human life? Don't all scream at once. No. The materialistic aims are dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. But the real aim of spiritual life, as Prabhupada explains in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, are threefold. So what are those three goals of human life? That's one of them. Pure love of Krishna. Prema means pure love of Krishna. And one of them is pure devotional service to Krishna. Unmotivated, uninterrupted. Pure devotional service. So pure love of Krishna, pure devotional service to Krishna, and Krishna. Actually, these are the goals. So we should learn and become eager to progress nicely, step by step, along the path given by the Acharyas, given by Srila Prabhupada, to help us achieve these three goals of human life. And that will be very nice. Any other comments or questions? Yes. This. You make up your mind.
He says, when you control your senses and qualitative disciples all over the world. So it seems like the first rudimentary requirement is to take your Krishna consciousness and then you need to become a guru, and then from there you can go into the higher levels.
Well, don't know about immediately become a guru, but Lord Chaitanya has requested everyone become effectively a guru. Amara agyaya guru hai tara e desh. Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Because actually it's our family business to try to help others understand about Krishna. So if we explain to someone whatever level they can understand on, that is actually the function of a guru, to introduce people to the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. And the siksha means to give guidance, give instruction, like that. And it's everybody's job. It's our family business to try help others to understand about Krishna. So, but actually becoming situated as a guru, in one sense, yes, we immediately, when we start to understand something, whatever we've understood, whatever we've realized, we can help others try to understand that. This is wanted, actually. Not that we become initiating gurus and take disciples immediately. That's probably asking for incredible trouble because we have to take their karma, we have to be qualified. But actually to help others understand. Prabhu, you have a point?
I had a question from yesterday. I've been thinking about the point. Yesterday, Plasma actually mentioned about causes of forgotten pleasure.
Do you want to hold it slightly away from your mouth because it's
Is it better?
yes.
Yesterday, Maharaj described one of the qualities of forgotten pleasure. And I've been thinking from yesterday, what is our point in our spiritual life? Should we cultivate good qualities of Vaishnavas, these 26 qualities, or should we be focused on Shravan and Kirtana, and then it automatically Krishna will clean our heart from all anarthas and all these good qualities will develop in our heart. So the question is, what is it, in our sadhana, should we cultivate these qualities or should we cultivate just meditation on Krishna?
As we practice devotional service, we gradually become aware of our unwanted qualities and try to throw them off. But in the beginning, we may not realize what qualities we actually have. Sometimes we have some very unfortunate qualities. And for example, one may think, okay, I've been a devotee for 3 weeks, I can boss other people around. No, that's not a particularly good quality. But after a little maturity, one can come to understand that actually I'm Das or Dasi, I'm servant. I remember one time in the early days of Berry Place Temple, we didn't have any beds or anything, but we had these lockers that were actually old tea chests, and that was where the sum total of all our possessions were kept in a small tea chest about that big, like that, in the Brahmachari ashram. And people would write their name on there, and people called me Tony Prabhu, so I wrote my name as Tony Prabhu, which was a big mistake. And Tribhuvananda put me right. He said, actually, you're not Prabhu, you're actually servant. So we should think of others as Prabhu and ourselves as Das and Dasi, like that. This is how we gradually, by the association of devotees, then we gradually learn, and these qualities will develop as we progress in our devotional service. And as we become conscious of our mistakes and our misunderstanding, we can gradually give up these things. But it is a gradual process, and we should become very eagerly engaged in devotional service of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, and the different processes of service, because this will actually help us develop if we keep the good association of devotees. Because in the association of devotees, we can actually start to appreciate the good qualities of others and also desire, yes, those are particular qualities which I would also like to be able to develop one day, like that. So keeping the association of devotees is incredibly important. We can't underestimate the value of the association of devotees, because in that association, because we're talking about Prahlad Maharaj, actually Hiranyakashipu is quoted here. In the Nectar of Devotion you can find this, and also here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Hiranyakashipu comes up with a very important statement, because he wanted, by association, for Prahlad to become a very nice demon like himself. So Hiranyakashipu is quoted as saying, association is so important because association is just like a crystal stone that reflects everything around it. And so in this way, association is everything. We have to keep the association of nice devotees, and gradually we will develop the characteristics, we'll develop more enthusiasm and eagerness to practice Krishna consciousness, and automatically those qualities will develop. And if we see some bad quality is there, once we recognize it, we can start to do something about it and throw it off. And gradually all the nice qualities will become manifest in the course of our practicing Krishna consciousness. Is that all right? Hare Krishna. Thank you. Shall we call it a halt for today and go and do something which everyone looks forward to? Taking prasadam. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's wonderful association through his transcendental literatures and all the benefits and blessings he's given us. Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.